Hello and welcome to Capital Connection with me, Kamran Yusuf. Asad Kaisar of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has been elected as Speaker of the National Assembly. Since the election of the Speaker is held through secret ballot, there were some who were expecting a surprise, but that was not the case. The moment Asad Kaisar took oath as Speaker of the National Assembly, members of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz started protest against the alleged rigging. They were also holding placards in their hands of their leader, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, and chanted slogans in his favor. But what was notable was that members of Pakistan People's Party did not join that protest. So are these signs of early signs of cracks appearing in the so-called Grand Opposition Alliance? So we have so much to talk about in the post-election scenario and the ongoing session of the National Assembly. For this, I'm joined by, in our studios, Mr. Athar Kazmi, who is a senior journalist who was previously working with BBC in London, and currently he is a special correspondent of Hum News. And we have with us also Mr. Bakir Sajjad, senior journalist currently working with Dawn newspaper, as well as host a show on Dawn TV. Many thanks indeed to both of you for joining us in the program. And let me start with you, Mr. Bakir Sajjad. People were hoping that there might be some kind of a surprise, as we witnessed way back in 1985 when Fakhr Imam surprisingly won the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly, because it was done through secret ballot. This time also people were hoping the same, but it did not happen because Asad Kaisar of PTI has won comfortably because he got 176 votes.
I think those expectations were a little misplaced. At least I was not expecting an upset in this elections, and I always expected a smooth sailing for Asad Kaisar, although I have reservations about his, PTI choosing him for this top position. So the numbers that were he got, or his opponent Khurshid Shah got in the elections, were quite expected. Although there was a little disappointment for me in the terms that the exact number of votes. Like I was expecting Asad Kaisar to get a few more votes, and similarly Khurshid Shah to get a few more votes. And those rejected votes were a little bit of surprise. The people rising to this level in the political arena.
PTI was expecting 175 votes. They got 176 votes.
This morning they were saying 177, and they got 1676. But my expectation was they would get a little around, little above 180, like 181, 182 votes. But they fell short of that. That was 176, and then the opposition candidate Khurshid Shah also fell short by around 8 votes. So what were his 8 votes rejected? Or people who were supposed to vote for him, they didn't properly cast their votes, or those who were about to vote for Asad Kaisar didn't properly.
Okay. But Mr. Kazmi, people were talking about the element of surprise, given the fact that Khurshid Shah is quite veteran, and he maintains good relations with all members of the political parties, even with the opposition. So that was the reason some people thought that his PR and his being experienced politician could work in his favor, but that did not happen.
I think that was more of a wishful thinking, to be honest. I think deep down, as my colleague said here, people knew that Khurshid Shah is not going to win. Even People's Party knew it. And today we saw, you talked about protest in NA, National Assembly. People's Party was there, but they were not as active as the other parties were. So there is already friction between the parties and what you call Grand Opposition Alliance. So it was pretty much expected that Asad Kaisar would win, Khurshid Shah would lose, and I'm surprised. I think in the beginning they were saying that they would probably put another candidate, not Khurshid Shah. They did put Khurshid Shah, and they, for Deputy Speaker, they put Maulana Fazl Rahman's son. So they were both interesting choice. But again, there's no surprise in there, to be honest.
But 8 votes were rejected. And considering the fact that all these politicians have the knowledge of all these things, do you think that this could be deliberate because some of the candidates might not be interested voting in favor of certain candidate?
Kamran, one thing before sorry for interrupting you. There's an interesting element. We talked a lot about rejected votes in the elections, and their percentage was like 1.76%. And the percentage of rejected votes, it was much higher in the National Assembly today. It was 2.4. That means the ordinary people are more, trained how to vote, or they have a better.
No, but we have to
understanding.
determine that whether
No, I know
those
there
8
was,
members deliberately did
there was
that.
some sort of mischief. I understand. For me, that's what I was saying. That we need to find out which way were those votes supposed to go. You can easily determine after having a look at the ballot, but probably we don't have access. Somebody who was reporting directly from the parliament may have got some hint of that, but in coming days we'll get to know.
What's your perspective?
The thing is that it's a very interesting point. In NA, in National Assembly, if 8 votes are rejected, they're not just 8 votes. They represent hundreds and thousands of people, 8 MNAs. Each MNA represent at least 100,000 people, in some constituency, maybe more. So almost 1 million or 2 million voters will have been rejected today. So that's the thing. Either it was deliberate or a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. At this stage, at this level, I think each and every vote counts. And I think our MNAs, our representatives should be enough educated in parliamentary, all these exercises. They should be able to cast a simple vote.
If candidate feels that, both candidates are not, capable enough to be voted for, then they have a choice. I mean, what they should do, because this is the secret ballot. I mean, they don't have the third option.
Yeah.
So they could have opted for, just...
abstain. They can abstain more dignified way rather than, making a fake vote or, invalid vote. I think the more dignified way would be to abstain.
We have not reached that level where somebody or some people stood up and, voted against the party or actually, went against the party's decision. Do you think that is possible?
No, I think they don't need to go against the party. They could, first they could have simply abstained. No one would have compelled them to sit in the National Assembly if the choices were not according to their wishes. Secondly, if they were so much under pressure from the party leadership to vote, they could have just cast a blank vote. They still had that option. Instead of wasting that gives a bad sense.
No,
bad impression.
Vote. I mean, could you explain black vote? How?
Blank
vote. Yeah.
Yes. Instead of you don't vote for anybody,
that still would be rejected. I mean, if that was a blank vote.
But
we don't know the reason.
Say that it was not, there was no stamp on it. Here, people, did not properly vote. What we get a sense from rejected votes is that they did not vote. They did not properly stamp it. And as Kazmi Saab was saying, it represents millions of people. It's not just the votes that those MNAs got. It's a disrespect for the entire constituency, and the constituencies are around 700,000 each. So that's the average size probably that was worked out in the last delimitation. So that was a disrespect of all those who voted for them. They voted for such people who can't even cast a vote. And this is not, this is something not limited to these people. I was reading a tweet from Abid Sher Ali the other day, and he said that when I inspected the votes, the ballots, they did not get the serial number. He has been contesting elections. He has been running for the office. He has himself cast vote. Then didn't he know that there was no serial number on the ballots? So that is the acumen that our politicians have.
And another thing, we don't know exactly what happened, why the votes were rejected. That's the thing we need to find out. If it sometimes, when you stamp on a paper and you fold paper, the stamp goes on both sides. That could also be the reason, the stamp is outside the line now, so that's why it was rejected. So, but we need to find out. It shouldn't happen.
But it appears that those rejected votes were apparently from opposition parties.
So, we are already seeing fissures in the opposition parties. There may be people who may be thinking of moving to the other side. And, I remember interviewing Senator Farthullah Babar, and he, like few weeks back, immediately after the elections, he said that he's foreseeing a PMLN patriots, like, you remember that we had in 2002 election or 2003 elections, when a People's Party forward bloc came up. And we are going to, there are people foreseeing that happen this time around.
Within PMLN?
Yes, within PMLN.
In the National Assembly?
In the National Assembly.
Do you think that is a possibility, forward bloc within the PMLN? Because that was, many people were predicting even way back when Nawaz Sharif was convicted and
yeah.
disqualified, people thought that even before the election, party would be disintegrated. But that did not happen.
Yeah. I think it is a real possibility, to be honest. I think the biggest challenge for the next 5 years to hold the party together. If the president Shahbaz Sharif, we all know how he behaves or how he conducts his business, is quite different from Mr. Nawaz Sharif. So if Nawaz Sharif Saab is out of the scene, I think it would be very difficult for Shahbaz Sharif Saab to keep the party together, and there is a real possibility that a splinter faction would pop up sometime, somewhere.
Okay, well, we will continue our discussion because we will also talk about that whether Asad Kaisar is capable enough to really run the business of the National Assembly, because they have to deal with some people believe the formidable opposition, and he is the first timer because he has been elected first time as member of the National Assembly and then has been elected as Speaker of the National Assembly. Our discussion will continue, but we have to go for a break here, so stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Capital Connection, and we are discussing the current political situation, especially the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly. And Bakr, before the break, we were talking about obviously how the opposition and the PMLN would look like. But first, let's talk about the candidature of Asad Kaisar. In your opening remarks, you objected to that. Why? Why do you think that he is not a good choice?
I'm not objecting to his choice. It was up to his party to choose anyone for that slot. They have won a good number of seats, and it's up to the PTI leadership to pick anybody. But I was just saying that Mr. Asad Kaisar may not probably good enough for that office. It's a very high office, and you have many more qualified people in PTI who could have made a good speaker. And similarly, it's a different circumstance or a difficult situation in which he will be expected to conduct the House. It's not going to be easy as like the past 5 years when PMLN had very good numbers in the Assembly. You could just see from today's voting that like he got 176 votes and his opponent got 154 votes. So it's like a couple of dozen votes. That's the difference between the two sides. And during these sessions, there will be occasions when people would, the party would not be in full strength in presence in the House. So he will encounter a lot of difficulties. No doubt, he has remained the Speaker of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Assembly for 5 years, and even there, people say his conduct was, as the Speaker was wanting. He was not like impartial or fully impartial in that way, or he is not well conversed with the parliamentary proceedings, even though he remained the Speaker. So, but personally, I expect that there should have been a better choice.
Do you agree with this? Because after taking oath, he did say that he would maintain a balance and he would make sure that he would take along all the political parties sitting in the National Assembly.
Yeah, the question is, when we had the independent or impartial Speaker last time in our history, we are not a British democracy where a speaker is very impartial, like we have John Bercow in House of Commons at the moment. He shouts at Conservatives, he shouts at Labour MPs as well. In Pakistan, speaker, he always comes from one party, and people are obliged with this post, and people they go to leadership, and they run campaigns to become speaker or deputy speaker. So they cannot afford to be impartial because they are part of this system. As far as him being a good or a bad speaker, he had been speaker of KP Assembly, and most of these posts, there is always clever bureaucrats around who they guide you how to do it, how to deal with things. But it would be difficult for him. It's not going to be like KP Assembly. As my colleague mentioned here opposition is very strong. Then you have people who are very vocal, who will be delivering speeches like Khwaja Asif and Rana Sanaullah and all other.
And even soon after he took oath, the way PMLN protested,
exactly.
And we expect that this scene would continue even.
I think he had to adjourn
For 15 minutes.
His
15
first words
minutes,
were order, and then adjourn for 15 minutes.
So, you
But
know,
then again, I mean, you said that PTI or Imran Khan could have gone for a better candidate. For example, Shafqat Mahmood was being speculated. Even some people were talking about Shah Mahmood Qureshi could be a good choice. So why Imran Khan then opted for a person who may not be that capable enough?
Yes, the reason why he went for such an uninspiring choice could be because he was probably accommodating all those people who had established the party in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. You remember, he is one of the oldest, PTI leader in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Yes.
He joined somewhere in 1996.
1996, yeah.
Yes, and since then he has remained loyal to the party. So he was contesting, or he was an aspirant for the office of the chief minister. Similarly, there were other people like Pervez Khattak who was aspiring for that office. So he had to accommodate all those people who were aspiring for the office of the coveted office of the chief minister. And remember, Asad Kaisar was even
Do you think that he's setting the right precedent? Because our traditional political parties exactly do the same thing, that they accommodate people. But Imran Khan used to say that he's a different man. He wants to change that culture, because he would want to appoint people purely on merit, not necessarily based on some links or other things.
I'll just remind you about one thing. The most important thing that I found in PTI's manifesto was the foreword written by Imran Khan himself, in which at on the very first page he writes that I will not compromise on anything. But we have already seen him making a lot of political compromises. So that that's a reality. You'll have to make political compromises. He had to accommodate all those people from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa who made the party get elected again. Who and they returned with double the numbers they had before. So he has to accommodate everybody. But yes, we expect him to come up with some very good names who can run the assembly.
Okay, but
better.
you have already indicated, and in your perspective, that Imran Khan has already compromised in certain things. Then how he would really conduct himself when he steps into the Prime Minister office, because he has made huge promises with his supporters and voters. Do you think that these are early signs that he may not be that successful as people may be hoping?
And probably can I add a question to it? Like, we have seen on two consecutive, not consecutive days, but the first 2 consecutive days of the proceedings, that he is also forgetful. The first time he forgot his coat, and today he forgot his ID. When he came to vote. So I think those are not good signs. They're not very inspiring signs.
I think there's a lot of criticism about Imran Khan, and many of it is true. But if you look at Pakistani politics in last 5-6 years, he's controlling the political narrative of Pakistan. When he says we will decide on roads, all the media, willingly or unwillingly, they follow him. Your political narrative goes on the road. When he says we'll go to the court says no, go and sort amongst yourselves out, and then the court said no, okay, we'll accept your petition. So if you look at last 5-6 years, he's been controlling the political narrative, and I think he gets less credit for his political, I wouldn't say genius, but for his political know-how. He is politically quite savvy, and whatever decisions he make, I think most of them have paid off. Just look at the example of accepting electables. Without electables, PTI wouldn't be making government today. They would have got around 70-80 seats maximum. So his decision, his compromise on electables was a good.
But the problem is that his supporters and voters are actually fed up with this kind of traditional politics.
That's the thing. How he sells it, that would be a challenge, because how he, the biggest opposition to Imran Khan is expectations of his voters. That's the thing. How he sells it. If he manages to deliver only 10 to 15% what he promises, I'm sure he'll be successful. Otherwise, I think they'll be thrown out of parliament in next election like anything.
But the first question is that whether they will be able to complete that full 5-year term, because that is again a big ask.
It depends how the opposition will behave. I think they will complete 5 years, because as long as People's Party's got strength, they've got power in Sindh. You know, they have this mandate, so they are there, they're free to do things. They've got an airport to leave the country and all that, so they're safe there. As long as People's Party is in power in Sindh, PTI would remain in power in center. If People's Party is, you know, if their government is destabilized in Sindh, the People's Party would act as a real opposition. I think.
But there are signs that People's Party may not act as a strong opposition, because the first speech Khurshid Shah delivered after the election of the speaker, that was very reconciliatory. He didn't talk about even rigging. He said that we will allow the PTI to complete the 5 years. We even cooperate with them if there is any legislation that is in the interest of the people, that is in the interest of Pakistan.
I think that is setting a very good tradition. You know, whenever the elections have taken place, we now
but the critics asked that few days back that you were crying foul about the rigging and all that, but you didn't raise that issue.
No, that issue will continue. You know, it will inevitably come up in the assembly. Even the other parties would agitate that. Probably, you know, People's Party may be differing with other parties in the strategy that they're going to adopt. You know, either you block the proceedings, that would be quite undemocratic. I think they realize that the PTI has got certain votes, although there are issues with the polling process.
They have accepted the election results. You know,
I think so. They'll have to accept the results and then go on to improve the system. And then, while investigating the last election, they haven't rejected the elections. They have raised concerns about the conduct of the elections. They have raised concerns about the pre-poll process. They have raised concerns about whatsoever happened after the conclusion of the voting, whether it's the counting or the tabulation of the results, like what they call the Form 45, which is the official certificate of the results from a polling station. So they have been raising objections over the problems with the process, but they haven't rejected the results. They are also beneficiary of those results, because People's Party has performed much better than it was expected. You know, all of us were expecting People's Party not to get more than 35-40 votes. Today they are sitting with 53 in the National Assembly. They have a very strong government and a very stable government.
So Asif Ali Zardari is clever enough to not lose that initiative. But some people are also talking about that why People's Party is suddenly going soft towards PTI, because there is also investigation going on where former President Asif Ali Zardari could face serious problems. So that could also be the reason, some people say. We will continue our discussion, but we have to go for a break here, so stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Capital Connection, and we are discussing the current political situation and, of course, the ongoing session of the National Assembly, where the Speaker of the National Assembly has already been elected, and there was no surprise as Asad Kaisar of PTI has comfortably been elected as Speaker of the National Assembly. Before the break, we were talking about that why the People's Party has adopted some kind of reconciliatory approach. Some critics believe that that could also be linked to what is happening outside the parliament, and that is the investigation that is going on against Asif Ali Zardari regarding that 35 billion rupees money laundering case. Do you think that there is any link with that?
To be honest, I don't have any evidence, but in Pakistan, things do happen. Before all of a sudden, where were these cases 5 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago? All of a sudden you have these cases. So, there could be a mysterious hand who's, all of a sudden you get to hear all these things. But at the same time, I don't have any evidence to say that, oh, this is happening because of that. But in Pakistani politics, we have seen in the past arm twisting, all these things, skeletons from the cupboard, all these things always happen. So it could be, one of those things, to keep Zardari Saab in control. If you don't behave, we've got these cases against you.
Do you think that there is a possibility?
I think, there could always be possibility of people using some instance to manipulate the other one. But right now, frankly, there are a lot of centers of power in Pakistan. It's not just one or two centers. So it's difficult, like even if it's a political compromise, then how would you ensure that the judiciary would act accordingly, or the Accountability Bureau would stop its proceedings? It's not, everything is not interconnected in that way. It may seem an easy explanation that probably by cooperating with PTI, the investigation against Mr. Zardari would stop. It may slow down, the political class may not push for it, but at the same time, judiciary is independent, we have Accountability Bureau functioning, and more importantly, we have an enlightened public that will continue to push for that. Just see, yesterday night when somebody, a newly elected member, he thrashed somebody over a road accident.
Dr.
And yes, and there was, a rage all around. So if this government is going to let off anybody who is suspected of wrongdoing, I think there would be a strong backlash from the people. People would not allow compromises. Like just we were talking a little while ago that Asad Kaisar's choice is a compromise, is a political compromise, or the inclusion of what the so-called electables in PTI was a compromise. And you also remember that most of those electables lost the elections. This time PTI has got good numbers in the National Assembly because of two reasons. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is strong showing in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, then the politics of South Punjab and Karachi. They are all electables, but they before joining PTI, they had coalesced for an agenda that was to form a separate province, and they have been doing that before. So these electables in the central Punjab, or what we call the northern Punjabs, they failed to win. Most of them lost the elections.
But it appears that PTI is also working or trying to isolate PMLN in the National Assembly, because after Khurshid Shah's speech, then Shah Mahmood Qureshi stood up and he wholeheartedly thanked Khurshid Shah, even had word of praise for Asif Ali Zardari, that they showed real political maturity. He did not mention Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. So it appears that PTI even also realizes that they have to take along People's Party so that PMLN could not create much problems for them.
Yeah, it suits them. They have to be good with People's Party. They have to be friendly with People's Party. Plus, People's Party, as I said before, it has more stake. It has stake in Sindh, it has stake in centre as well. So that's the thing. The People Party would like to be, act as if, I wouldn't say as a friendly opposition, but it suits both of them to be in a good relationship, good democratic relationship.
But how Imran Khan would sell that, because people are already mocking and talking about that picture. Some people say that was picture of the day on the 13th of August when Imran Khan and Zardari shook hands, and you could see the smile, or typical smile, on Zardari's face.
On personal level, I think it's a very good gesture, to be honest, because they're both elected members, they both represent people, and they should behave and act like a grown up, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But ironically, on the other hand, Shehbaz Sharif and Zardari didn't shake hand, and they even
did also. They also shook hands, although there were no pictures about that handshake. But this is very short-sighted of all of us as journalists to see it in the zero-sum game. Like Imran Khan shaking hand was his defeat or Zardari's victory, because they were trying to set up or present some good optics at the start of another parliament or another national
people
assembly.
say that this is reality check, because when you take such a high moral position, you don't know the reality, because at the end of the day you have to sit with the same people, because we know what Imran Khan used to say about Asif Ali Zardari, even Shehbaz Sharif, but now he has to sit with them because
we have to separate that political rhetoric of the street from whatsoever happens in the parliament. They have to work together in the parliament, not just for themselves or their own interest, but for the interest of this country. They will have to work with People's Party. People's Party has has a strong presence in the Senate. People's Party runs the government.
But the question is,
so
that Imran Khan really justify that position, because his voters really
don't see any problem with that.
For PTI because they literally hate the traditional political parties like People's Party and Pakistan Muslim League
And
Nawaz.
didn't PMLN people vote for Shehbaz Sharif because he had tried to drag Asif Zardari in streets? So even now, Shehbaz Sharif is getting votes from People's Party to be the candidate, for the Prime Minister. So he's trying.
But there is also a change in that, because today when Bilawal was asked a question by some journalists that whether he would vote for Shehbaz Sharif, he said that he would ask PMLN to change their candidate. So it seems that even People's Party is not willing to vote for Shehbaz Sharif.
No. For Bilawal, it's a bigger problem, because his mother, who sacrificed her life, always said that there are remnants of Ziaul Haq who had, tried to finish off People's Party. They had eliminated their founder.
So also signed a charter of democracy with Nawaz Sharif.
Yes,
you can't deny that.
It would be a political wrong.
By the way,
it would be very wrong politically for Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to be voting for the same remnants of Ziaul Haq.
No, the problem is that then why you had this grand opposition alliance, because PMLN candidates voted for Khurshid Shah, and now they have this joint candidate for the prime ministerial election, Shehbaz Sharif. So technically or principally they should vote for Shehbaz Sharif, but now Bilawal is changing his position.
Yeah, they should, but obviously, since they've announced that they will be voting for Shehbaz Sharif, there's been criticism in media. People have been asking questions. Journalists like you, me, and our colleague here, they've been asking questions from People's Party. So obviously, they are rethinking their position. What I think would be more interesting, the leader of opposition. Who is going to be the leader of opposition in NA? So who either would it be Shehbaz Sharif or Khurshid Shah? This would be another. Would people?
I think on paper Shehbaz Sharif should be the opposition leader, because they have the biggest number on their side.
Seats, yes.
Side. Would they vote for leader of the opposition, or leader of opposition would be elected without any contest? If People's Party say that leader opposition should be from our party because we have a coalition of blah blah numbers, so that could be another thing. But I don't think they will go to this extent. But I think they would. They would rather not vote for Shehbaz Sharif. It would not look good on paper.
So that is a good news for PTI, because they were actually faring a very strong opposition. Of course, if People's Party and PMLN both joined their hands together, that would make PTI's life very difficult. But if now they change their mind, that would be a win-win situation for PTI.
What I'm saying, that a divided opposition would always benefit PTI. But I'm looking at it from the other perspective, from that of an optimist, that, here People's Party is working to, strengthen the parliamentary traditions. And if we look back, we have always seen that People's Party has shown strong commitment to parliamentary democracy. Whether it was their own tenure, they did, better and stronger legislation than PMLN. They had their Prime Minister attending the parliament sessions.
So you agree with Shah Mahmood Qureshi that they are showing political maturity?
Yes, and even during the last tenure, I just, coming here, I was hearing Ayaz Sadiq, and he was praising Khurshid Shah for the role of Pakistan People's Party in the last National Assembly. So I'm expecting that they will continue that tradition, and whether or not they are, in the treasury or on the opposition, but they should continue to strengthen the parliamentary
traditions. Then why
traditions.
are people criticizing Shehbaz Sharif? Because Shehbaz Sharif is also doing the same. He is not really aggressive. He is also doing the same. He appears not in favor of derailing the system, or taking this protest on alleged rigging to the extent where the entire system is under threat.
The thing is that with Nawaz Sharif, practically his politics is, his active parliamentary politics is over. He's disqualified. He's in prison. With Shehbaz Sharif, there's still glimmer of hope. So he thinks that he can get somewhere. If he's to go out, totally against the establishment, totally against the order, and if he goes out and make a big hoo-ha about it, that would affect his future prospects. So I think that's the thing Shehbaz Sharif, is
no, but the problem is whether his narrative is really going well with his voters or PMLN supporters, because some people believe that around 13 million votes that PMLN got, it was actually because of the narrative of Nawaz Sharif, not necessarily of Shehbaz Sharif.
The thing is, Shehbaz Sharif hasn't got a public vote anyway. It's the vote belongs to Mia Nawaz Sharif Saab. Shehbaz Sharif is not as popular. We all know that. Muslim League Noon, it stands for Noon means Nawaz Sharif. So the Muslim League Noon means Nawaz Sharif. As long as Nawaz Sharif is there, the party will get the votes. But Shehbaz Sharif wants to do a different type of politics. People's Party cannot do Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz type of politics. When they tried to do it, the party almost finished. And Noon League cannot do People's Party type of politics. They are not a party of opposition. They cannot protest like the Jialas used to do in 80s and 90s. It's very much of federation of electables, Muslim League Noon. So it is in their, I wouldn't say in their blood, it is in their core values that they do their politics to become to rule the country. They do not do their politics for certain principles. People's Party has a certain ideology, Roti Kapda Makan, the left wing. Muslim League Noon has only one ideology in the 80s, anti-Bhutto vote or pro-rightist vote, Zia vote. So I think sometimes we expect too much ideology-driven policies from Muslim League Noon. I think
but some people believe that now Nawaz Sharif is following that ideology because give respect to vote and he is showing that defiance because people were expecting that he might not live in those conditions and prefer a kind of deal that he did in the past, but he did now is in jail and proving all those critics wrong. So we will continue our discussion, but we have to go for a break here, so stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Capital Connection and we are discussing the current political situation and of course the ongoing session of the National Assembly. Before the break we were talking about the politics of Shehbaz Sharif. Do you think that the kind of policies, the kind of approach Shehbaz Sharif has at the moment, it can really work in the present situation?
I think he's taking a very pragmatic approach and that is the requirement of the time. He can't be doing this anti-establishment sort of politics that his brother, the course that his brother took in the, after his departure from the Prime Minister's office, because he has to work with the system. He has to revive that party. That party, no doubt, was emotionally charged. It has to sustain this next 5 years. For that, he will have to work.
But some people see this as a betrayal with Nawaz Sharif.
I don't think so. It's a betrayal with Nawaz Sharif. Do you think that by sitting outside the parliament or continuously agitating, he will be able to address
raising the right questions,
handle his brother's cause? Yes, he's raising the questions about his trial. You would have seen him, protesting against his conviction. There was, although it was not with the same vigor and determination as one would have expected from Nawaz Sharif. But probably he has a different mind of working with the powers, and he was always known as a troubleshooter. So he's trying to revive the fortunes of the party. But now if you look at this thing from the family politics of the Sharifs, then you will certainly see Shehbaz Sharif erring.
But the question is that then what is the future of the PMLN? Because many people even within the PMLN criticizing Shehbaz Sharif this approach because they think that Nawaz Sharif's narrative was selling very well, and if Shehbaz Sharif would have gone aggressive, they could have won more seats in the elections.
I think, to be honest, some people misguided me on Nawaz Sharif. The narrative was selling, it was selling good, but it wasn't selling as like hotcakes, the way some people were saying. Because if you go on social media, you go on Twitter, there were a lot of people who were retweeting Mariam's tweets, and there was a lot, this big hoo-ha that Nawaz Sharif would come to Pakistan and, there'll be crowds like revolution in Iran in 1979, so he'll be welcomed like Khomeini. But there was no doubt in people who are working on the ground that he was popular, but he was never that popular. And people who are egging Nawaz and Mariam Nawaz are the same people who, let alone how to contest a election of a councillor, they don't even know how to submit papers in a election of a councillor. So when you let these people to derive your narrative on Twitter, ultra leftist or ultra
But
lightist.
what about the 13 million votes that they got?
They are genuinely
That's a
popular. They are popular. They are genuinely popular, but they are not as popular as they like to think so. They like to think they are very popular, but they are not that popular. As I said before, Muslim League Noon is a party of ruling class. It is a federation of electables. Whenever there is a crisis, all these electables, they always jump the ship. And you'll see in the coming days, it's highly likely that you will see a forward
then
block.
what about Imran Khan? Because one thing is now very certain. Initially, there were a lot of reports that PTI was really struggling to get the magic number in the National Assembly to ensure the election of Imran Khan as Prime Minister. But after today's election of the Speaker, it seems that it's a foregone conclusion. He won't be having any problem on Friday.
No, I never doubted that Imran Khan would be, struggling. He had got his party had got significant numbers, like 158 is their final tally, although there are around 6 seats that they have vacated, so there is 152. Plus, they had their allies, like GDA was always going to side with PTI, PMLQ was going to side with PTI, and similarly, MQM was expected to side with PTI. I interviewed the new MQM convener, Dr. Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui, before the elections, and at that time I had asked him, if such a situation came that you had to vote for Imran Khan, would you do that? He said that we have passed that, got past that point where we could not talk to PTI. Now we are there that we can talk and we can discuss things. So they had crossed that point, because the basic irritant between the two parties was Iltaf Hussain, and he's no more.
It's not an easy ally to be.
I know it's a very difficult ally to work with. They will be throwing their weight, and they will be trying to get their sort of the share of the deal. But they can do without MQM now, because MQM has got 7 seats, and after the by-elections, I think Imran Khan would be very securely placed, although his margin of lead in the National Assembly is fairly slim as compared to the previous
So in
Prime
that
Minister.
sense, do you think that Imran Khan can be a powerful Prime Minister, can take all the difficult decisions?
In certain cases, yes, I think he should be able to take decisions. But coming back to MQM is not that popular or that powerful anymore. So they know that as well. So they're not going to behave the way they used to behave with Pakistan People's Party. So Imran Khan is fortunate in this case. Another thing about Imran Khan, what I would like to say, he always mentioned British democracy. There's a concept of a shadow cabinet. But in PTI's New Pakistan, we don't even know who's going to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. There's a lot of rumors going around. So when even Imran himself talked about shadow cabinet. Well, where is that shadow cabinet? So I'm sure he will be elected comfortably come Friday. But where is that shadow cabinet?
And even we don't know that who would be the candidate for the Punjab Chief Minister, because all these decisions. So what this really reflects, that the enormity of the challenge really taking its toll on Imran Khan now?
No, the problem here is that what Kazmi Saab mentioned is that while they were in opposition, they did not do their homework. They did not prepare a team who could replace the government. They were just focusing on street agitation. This is a lesson for the opposition now, that they should form a team which should act as a shadow cabinet. And when they get their turn, they can easily find the replacements. The second issue is that of is that PTI does not have many experienced people in Punjab. Like out of 123 that they have got in Punjab, only 23 people are returning to the assembly. The other 100 are the first timers. So he would always be thinking in terms of whether he could hand the reins of one of the most difficult province or vesting that confidence in somebody who's just new in the parliament, in the provincial assembly. So that's a big problem for Imran Khan.
But the problem is that Imran Khan always talks of change. He wants to reform Pakistan politically, economically, and even socially. So they should have done their homework, because these things should have been on their mind, because many people were thinking even before the election Imran Khan was preparing to become Pakistan's next prime minister. They should have done all their homework.
That's what they claim. They say we've got everything in place. As soon as we become, we take the oath and we become a proper government, we will start implementing all these things. I don't think they need a massive agenda, to be honest, to start with. Even if they come to Punjab, if they can reform the police by 35 to 45%, we all know that. Name me a police station in Punjab where you would feel safe, or you would go in the night and register an FIR without knowing someone or without calling someone. Name me a police station in Sindh, in Punjab, in Balochistan, or in KP, where a woman would feel safe at night. So that's the thing. There are certain things which they don't need. They don't need Einsteins, or they don't need policy makers. There are certain things all they need is good few bureaucrats, good few police officers, right-thinking people. Get them in. Start changing this Thana culture.
Some people say the litmus test is about that. The Sindh MPA, Dr. Imran Ali Shah, who thrashed a poor citizen on the main road, and he, even though accepted his apology, but said that he is a poor man, he can't really pursue legal case, and he doesn't even trust the judicial system. Yeah. And he said that he'll leave it to Imran Khan, whatever decision he takes. Do you think that Imran Khan often gives the example of Westminster or UK's democracy? What would have happened if that similar case happened?
His political career would have ended by now. But the thing is that when I'm on the road, I feel like thrashing a lot of people, but you don't. You have to obey, yes. You have to play by the rule, you have to obey the law. When you're an elected member, you cannot behave like this. I think he needs to go, he needs to resign. In any Western democracy, he would have resigned by now. In Pakistan...
But if he didn't, then how should Imran Khan really respond to that? Should he really accept the apology?
I think he would accept the apology, his supporter would accept the apology, and they'll come up with a counter argument, and they'll beat you and me in that argument.
What do you think? How he should go about it? Because he has to set the precedent, because people are asking these questions, because PTI is the one who always talks of setting high standards, respecting the common man, respecting the rule of law, and even ending the so-called VIP culture in Pakistan.
I think this is something that Imran Khan can do very easily. He's very well placed in Karachi right now, and he can simply ask that guy to quit and get somebody elected in his place, and that would send a right message across his party that nobody is going to misbehave in future. Otherwise, they're going to face the same fate. That happening at the start of the tenure would be, the perfect.
No, the question is whether he can take that decision.
Yeah, why not?
Because that poor chap said that he got telephone calls from Islamabad from certain PTI members, and they were requesting him, asking him that he made a mistake, please accept his apology. This seems that Imran Khan is in no mood to take any serious action against that guy.
The Imran Khan that I know is, acts very independently. I have met him a couple of times, and I've seen that thing in him, that if he comes to take a decision, he takes it, although he has made compromises, and that I've talked openly. But I think this is something that he can do and send a very strong message to his entire party.
And also there are reports that he might be a British citizen as well, and he didn't tell or reveal that before the Election Commission of Pakistan. That is another offence.
I have a different take on this. I think if you're a British citizen and Pakistani citizen, you're allowed to contest election in UK, you're allowed to become MP. Why not in Pakistan? Being a dual national, it doesn't make you a less of a
debate. But now, as long as we have in the law that you can't contest as a dual national, or you have also declare that whether you are a dual national or not. So you have to follow that.
Misdeclaration, yeah. So that could be another issue.
That's what I'm saying. That right now all the odds are in favor of Imran Khan. He can get somebody re-elected from that seat. This man is also culpable on some other count.
And it is not that difficult decision. I mean, it's an easier decision, administrative decision that his party and he can easily take and set the precedent and send the message to all other party men that you can't really violate such laws.
I think there are certain issues within the party. Sometimes they act like bureaucrats. Some of their leaders, they are not genuinely public figures. even the governor named for Sindh, Imran Ismail, as soon as he was named, he said, oh, we will demolish the walls of Bilawal House. Why? You don't need to say that. You know, you just been named. Why start a controversy?
I think slowly and gradually they will also learn that, because media and other people will closely be scrutinizing their each and every move the PTI takes from here on in. We have to conclude our discussion. Many thanks indeed, Mr. Athar Kazmi and Bakir Sajjad. That's it from this edition of Capital Connection. Thanks for watching.